Mr. Melanson or Mr. Dupree as favorites in this race. But like I said, I'm just here to bring
So you're
my
bringing awareness.
awareness.
These issues.
That's all I'm here for. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on what our vision as a city should be moving forward?
Well, like I said, I believe that Sudbury should remain a progressive society. Like I said, more towards the center left than that, where it was before. I would say it was 10, 15 years ago where it practiced that. Yeah.
What do you think of the resource taxation that we're receiving from the mines?
I believe that should be increased. Yeah, so when it comes to that, because like I say, Valley and Glencore and that can pay more because they are profiting from the Sudbury Basin and the Sudbury area. I know they would claim that they're really not part of the city, but it's the same thing with Canadian Pacific and Canadian National Railways. They can pay a lot more, and they should be the ones that should be helping our so-called municipal social infrastructure.
Do you see us being able to get anywhere with this campaign? Because it's not the first time
No.
we're trying to do it.
To me, it's going to be very difficult. They have lawyers and they could really stall us in that, but it's the only problem is to keep after them and try. Is it to see if we can put our point of view across and to see if we could get the provincial government and even the federal government on our side. I know it's pretty hard with Mr. Harper there in government, but let's hope it changes in October 2015.
That's right, we got another election next year, don't we?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the ward system? Are the ward boundaries changing, or the review?
To me, I'm a kind of a man that would like just stay the way they were, but to me, I'm not much of a.
It seems to be something that's on the back burner, but I know people keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I think, from what I can gather, I think it's going to be an issue
Yeah.
over the next, has to be an issue over the next couple of years, because in order to do a ward boundary change for the next election, you've got to do it pretty early in the term.
Yeah.
You've got to go through the province to change the boundaries. I
Yeah.
don't think it's just something we can do locally.
But-
So it's gotta be something that, and I can see, because I've lived here all my life, I can see that the situation is that the group of councillors who have just been elected under this system are gonna be reluctant to wanna change a system that they were successful in.
Exactly.
And so if we face another one of these, okay, let's go 4 years from now, in the next election, the newcomers are gonna say that they would like a change a different way.
Yeah.
Because they have a bias toward a better way of being successful.
Yeah. But you don't think they'll have to be brought up to referendum again, or is it something that can be changed on the council vote or something like that?
I think everybody's afraid of alienating the inside and the outside again.
Yeah.
And, you moved to Sudbury when?
I moved here in 1985. Well, my wife got employment here in 1984.
So you were around when we had regional government, so you know what the system was like.
Yeah.
I think back in the days when we had Tom Davies and we had regional government, you knew where every single person sitting around that regional council table stood.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the 2 reps from the valley, you knew they were there for the valley. You had the 2 from Chelmsford, they were there from Chelmsford. And you had 10 in the city and 10 in the outlying areas, and there was a lot of healthy debate.
Yeah.
And I think what got done basically focused on those big issues that took into consideration the needs of the entire group, because then everybody went back to their own little areas and they had their own little councils and they dealt with their own local issues. I think.
Well, that was the so-called agglomerations of all the little municipalities into the greater Sudbury area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I think we're missing that, who looks after the little people in the wards?
Yeah,
And that's where I see you know, the whole issue of, whether we go councillors at large, whether we change the boundaries, whether we have more, like, I think what we have to make sure of is that the individual communities, even,
Yeah.
and there's communities in Sudbury,
yeah.
you know, you got Middle Lake, you got New Sudbury, you got the Flower, those are communities. That those communities all have a voice.
Yeah. Well, I would love that, but the only problem is, now it's so-called I would say the business and that, well, they would like to, what do you call it, deregulate or something like this, or I would say less government. And what you are doing there is you're preaching a little more government, a little more municipal government. And I don't think the right is in favor of that. I would love that as a so-called socialist. To me, you have to have more government, so you find out what our people want and what the need of the so-called residents of Sudbury and the residents of the small localities.
And I think
Exactly.
I think that's the purpose of
Yeah.
the municipal government. is
Exactly.
To represent the people who are living in the city.
Yeah, and especially with the cuts of transfers from the, let's say, from the federal government to the provincial and from the provincial to the municipality, what are we left
It's
with?
really being downloaded. It's not gonna be an easy
Yeah.
task to balance the budgets over the
Yeah.
next 4 years.
And everybody wants to cut everywhere, and it shouldn't be happening.
No, it's, I always like saying that it was when, we used to have, 24 cans of pop in a case, and all of a sudden, people cut it down to 18, and they kept the price the same, and everybody was happy that the price stayed the same.
Well, that's happening at Walmart right now, where we used to buy, let's say, 500 tablets of aspirin for $10. Now they cut it down in half for 250 tablets for $10.
Yeah, we're just happy that the price hasn't gone up. So we need a lot of education. It's going fast, we only have about 5 or 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to bring up in terms of what Jean Reno wants people to know about, or to recognize when they're going to the ballot box, when they're going to vote in October?
Well, like I said, I'm a bilingual French-Canadian, and it's all I want to do is just bring out my so-called concerns for the city of Sudbury. Like, I came up here in 1978 to Laurentian University, in what you guys had the big strike there at Inco, and I remember going back to my dorm at night, crying. I said, "Oh my God, how could people live like this?" And when I left here, I mean, I only did one semester here, and I was taking science at a time, and I said, "Oh, I'll never go back to Sudbury." The next thing you know, 7 years later, I was back, and then, but the problem is, I'm almost getting that same feeling again. I'm almost losing faith in that, in mankind, and that, yeah.
I worry about that,
Yeah.
because you're not the first person that I've heard on this show say that.
Yeah.
I've heard a number of people say that when their friends ask them whether they should move to Sudbury, and they're saying, no, that's not good. If we have people here who are advising people that they know, that, no, maybe you shouldn't think about coming here, that bothers me as a lifelong resident, because there's a problem that has to be solved.
Yeah.
Because normally, the tendency is you're gonna recommend people come and live here because you don't want them to think you're living in a dump.
Yeah.
If you're gonna advise them not to come, what are you saying about your choice?
Yeah. Well, like I said, from what was it, 1978 to 1985, there was quite a bit of a change then. And I found Sudbury quite a pleasant place, and a transformation at that time. I thought, wow.
And I think it's still there. I think we just have to pull it together. And to me, I think, you know, I think every election people say the same thing. This is a turning point. This is a turning point. But I don't know. I think that the next 4 years are going to be more of a turning point than any of the turning points we've had in the past. I think
Yeah.
we're kind of on the tipping point of, you know, just running out of money and not being able to just, our infrastructure is so bad that if we don't kind of get some kind of control over it, we could be really running into some problems.
To me, it looks like the governments and that are living for the end of time or something like this, and that's not happening. So what we should be doing is should be helping out our children, our grandchildren.
Yep.
They'll be there, or we shouldn't be like they're expecting like the end of time to happen.
Yeah, it's not as doom and gloom as.
Yeah, the doom and gloom.
That is. But I think we have to avoid the cheerleader approach where everything is great too, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're at that tipping point where we don't have to throw everything out, but we don't have to pretend that everything is perfect. Let's get some practical
Well,
solutions.
the thing is, there's 1 billion people starving to death in the world and are hungry. And then there's 4 and 5 billion that are probably living on less than a couple of dollars a day in unsanitary conditions. And then you got us that live this beautiful life in the middle class. That, you know, we live things that even our grandparents never even dreamed about.
Yeah.
And then when you got the so-called, I would say, million or so that lived at the high end, I call it the almost, where libertarian capitalism is almost an evolutionary form of feudalism. They don't want to share with no one but themselves. But they preach to us, if you worked a little hard, you could become rich too.
Can't be anything.
And then you say, hey, that doesn't work. What we should be doing is sharing with the whole world. We should be sharing our wealth, and we're not doing it. We should, and the poor people, that we're all human beings, and we should be sharing it, and we're not.
Provided some interesting perspectives, right?
Well-
I'm really glad you had a chance to come in. I hope that people have a chance to listen to what you have to say. I mean, you don't have any illusions of grandeur of thinking that you're gonna be the eventual mayor, but I think when we have 8 people running for mayor, that every one of them has something to offer for people to think about, and yeah, only one person can get elected, but I think every candidate has the ability to bring to the table a new perspective, and I think we all have to listen to that.
Yeah, well, I consider it's like a lottery. Yeah, at least you have to buy the ticket to enter it, and that's the way I view it. I can't see my chances of being very well, but if you don't enter, you can't win.
But isn't it nice that you can run?
Yeah, it is.
At
It's for,
least you can do that.
that's right.
And I think I think it takes a lot of, people who put their name in to sit as mayor, whether they have a chance or not. I think we have to all appreciate as citizens that they're coming there with a message,
Yeah, that's right.
and we have to listen.
Right.
And I want to thank you for coming in. It's been good. 45 minutes have gone by pretty fast.
Well, no problem. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and the best of luck over the next 11 weeks. I think it's 11 weeks today
Oh, well.
that we have the voting, so I think things should start to pick up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I want to thank our listeners for tuning into the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM. Our program will continue in about 10 minutes. What's up?